Hello chums! A while ago I released a video explaining how to perform a credit grind exploit using the custom race feature and a Suzuki Jimny of all cars. This is a re-release of that video which has hopefully explained some things better and refined some things slightly. However, I will start off with a disclaimer. This method uses the custom race feature, so you'll need to earn all gold times in the corresponding circuit experience to maximize potential race payouts. This method uses the Lake Louise snow circuit, so if you haven't completed the circuit experience there, this method will not make you as much money. I have a video guide explaining how to achieve the gold times with slow motion walkthroughs of each sector. Another thing that affects the race winnings is your collector level. If you are not yet collector level 50, payouts will be slightly lower, though this does not affect things as much as the circuit experience does. With everything working to plan, this will earn you about the same hourly winnings as the utterly hateful Tokyo race without any of the effort. Plus, you can adjust how long this method takes to suit you. It's also worth mentioning that this method utilizes an exploit. It is a very low effort way of making similar money to the established grind races at Tokyo and Sardinia. If for some reason you take issue with this, please feel free to keep it to yourself. Now that that's out of the way, we need two cars, your car and the opponent car. For your car, the best choice by far is the Suzuki Jimny XC, because it's four-wheel drive and very slow. Do not buy the Suzuki Jimny Sierra though. Once you have your Jimny, you'll need to buy every upgrade except for the engine swap. Do not engine swap this Jimny, and I'll go through the rest of the upgrades now. Weight reduction stage 1, bore up, high lift camshaft, weight reduction stage 2, power restrictor and ballast, racing crankshaft, customizable computer, high RPM turbo, customizable LSD, weight reduction stage 3, body rigidity upgrade is optional, stroke up, engine balance tuning, polish ports, anti-lag, intercooler, racing air filter, racing exhaust, exhaust manifold, brake kit is optional, custom suspension, racing clutch, torque vectoring center differential, racing transmission, nitrous, snow tires, and if you're level 50, titanium conrods and carbon prop shaft. I also have the wide body upgrade along with the aftermarket wheels with a wide offset. Now that we've upgraded the car, we need to create two different setups for it. The first is a setup for the race itself. We need the car to be fully upgraded for obvious reasons. I set the nitrous strength to the maximum. The rest of the settings aren't quite so important since we'll be wall riding. However, I found that increasing the camber can help with cornering speed slightly. Set the torque vectoring to 50-50 for maximum grip in the snow. The most important part of this setup is the transmission, which needs to allow the car to get to roughly 150 miles per hour. For this, make sure the top speed in 5th gear and the individual adjustments is set to 270 km per hour. The rest of the gears can be extended to get closer to 5th gear. This will improve acceleration out of the lower speed corners. Now we need to make a second setup sheet which will nerf the car. Remove the suspension upgrade, leave the limited slip differential, limit the ECU to 70%, add 200 kg of ballast, limit the power restrictor to 70%, fit the standard transmission, remove the turbo, intercooler, exhaust, air filter and manifold, brakes if you have them, and the racing clutch. If everything has gone to plan, your Suzuki Jimny should have less than 200 performance points on snow tyres. This is very important for maximising payouts. Next up, we need your opponent car. There's only two requirements. It has to have a high performance point rating when stock and must be able to have snow tyres fitted. Custom race winnings are calculated based on the stock performance point rating of your opponents. Payouts will change for every 100 performance points the opponent car does or does not have. In this case, we need a car that has at least 600 performance points stock. And one of the cheapest I know of is the Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 at 79 grand. You can also win it in the cafe menu books. Another alternative is one of the Group B rally cars that you win from the later menu books as well. There are options with over 700 performance points, such as the Suzuki Escudo Pikes Peak for 2 million, or the silly looking Ital-designed Vision Gran Turismo off-road mode for 1 million. This will increase the payouts, however not by much, so I will be sticking with the Camaro for this video. Once you have this car, you only need to buy snow tyres and a fully customizable transmission. Once you have these, head into the settings. What we need to do is alter the gear ratios so that the car cannot get to a high top speed. So while your nitrous-fueled Jimny flies at 150 miles per hour, the Camaro is bouncing off the rev limiter at a lower speed. You have two choices here. You can either limit the gear ratios as much as possible by adjusting each individual gear to go as low as they can go, starting from first gear, working all the way up to top gear, so that the car will barely get to 50 miles per hour. By doing this, you can't possibly lose, but you will lap the opponents several times, potentially causing collisions, which could affect your clean race bonus. I typically set the ratios so that the top speed is slightly lower than the Jimny, but not by much. It's harder to get past the opponents to begin with, but you won't lap them nearly as many times. Now that we have both cars, we need to set up the race. Make sure that you're in the Camaro to begin with, and head to the Lake Louise circuit to select Custom Race. You need the tri-oval. I usually pick the reverse layout, however it doesn't make a difference. I usually set the race to 12 laps, since that's roughly how long the nitrous will last on your Suzuki. Make sure the number of opponents is set to the maximum 16, and set your starting position to 16th. This will increase the payout further. A rolling start will save you 5 to 10 seconds per race. Boost needs to be switched off in order to increase pay further. Slipstream strength will make no difference. The nitrous usage multiplier needs to be maxed out so that we can use the nitrous for as long as possible. Under rival settings, we need to set the rival selection to select from garage. If you're already in the Camaro, the rest of the opponents will automatically be in the same car. Now, set the rival difficulty to professional, which will increase the pay further. Save the settings and give it a jazzy name. Now, exit back out of that menu and change to your Suzuki Jimny. Make sure that the sub 200 performance point setup is applied. The reason for this is that the custom race feature takes into account the stock performance point rating of your rivals, but the current performance point rating of the car that you are driving. Heading back into the custom race and loading the saved settings against all of those Camaros will give you a massively bloated potential payout. If the pay isn't what you're expecting it to be, or what you're seeing on my screen, either the Jimny is not below 200 performance points, you're not level 50, or you haven't got gold on the circuit experience. If all is well, start the race. Once the race has loaded up, we can now head into the settings menu and switch to the fully upgraded setup on your Suzuki Jimny. But because we did so after the race was loaded, your potential winnings will remain the same. The race itself is a fairly simple affair. Use nitrous, ride the walls, and avoid the opponent cars. Crashing into walls will not affect your clean race bonus, but crashing into other cars will, so be very careful when overtaking. It's also worth mentioning that you will run out of nitrous if you use it for the entire race. It will only last roughly 10 laps. You can save it by not using it on the corners as well as the jumps. It is possible to make it last more than 12 laps, however I found 12 to be the easiest sweet spot to maintain. One lap should take just under a minute, meaning the race will take 12 minutes, which is half as long as the best method for Tokyo or Sardinia. Personally, I find it quite useful not having to dedicate nearly half an hour to one race. Assuming you have retained the clean race bonus, your 12-minute race should be rewarded with roughly 430,000 credits. Let's do some quick maths to see how it compares to the Tokyo race. Including going through the menus, this race takes 12.5 minutes. This means it can be done 4.8 times in 1 hour. Multiply that by the winnings, and that gives you 2,064,000 credits per hour. The absolute fastest Tokyo 600 methods take 22.5 minutes, including loading screens, which gives you just under 2.2 million credits per hour. Most of us will not see that kind of return on the Tokyo race, thanks to loss of clean race bonus. So, That was my updated video on credit grinding for lazy people. There is an even lazier method using a Honda Beat and a rubber band at Daytona, which I will cover in a future video. In the meantime, I hope this one helped. If so, I'd rather appreciate a like and a subscription. Take care of yourself, and ta-ra.